Wherever you go, wherever you stay, don't you forget that love is always coming your way. No matter how far, how broken you are, don't you forget that love is always coming your way.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Grace Out Loud, our podcast for conversations about things that you don't always hear on Sunday. Because, Dom, we can't talk about everything.
Nope. There's just not enough time.
There's not enough time. I'm Katie, he's Dom, and we are continuing our series on the Christian journey. Today, talking about what's your faith journey. So this will be a great opportunity. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty. We don't have to be fully nerdy this episode. We're talking about our own personal stories. I want to hear about your journey to become a pastor, all that and more. So we will get to that. But first, as always, we're going to start off with a little fun, start off with an icebreaker. And on the topic of journeys and traveling back in time, maybe, or to the future. So would you rather go back in time to meet your ancestors or go forward to meet your descendants? I switched it up this week. We have a would you rather.
Wow. Okay. That is like, am I optimistic that like there's I'm seeing a really good future
That's
for
true.
the world?
You don't know what you're going to get.
I think right now I would say I want to meet my descendants. Because I'm hoping we'll have like flying cars and stuff.
Yeah,
and that would be really cool.
I like it.
Like I've been to the Italian countryside and it's beautiful.
Yes.
But like I have never seen a car fly and I would like to see that.
Okay, so you're going for the future. Yeah. You want to see the future Doms of the world. I'm actually going to go back.
You're going to go back?
I don't know. I feel like I've never been someone that's dove in a lot to like
your ancestral tree?
Yeah, like I'm not on, Ancestry.com, right? I've never done the like my tree stuff. So I would be curious. I would be curious to go back to that.
The Gaussians.
The Gaussians are German, and then my mom's side, super Italian. I actually think I still do have like second cousins who are in living in Italy.
I didn't know
so
that about
that part would be neat. I would probably focus on that side and go back to see what was going on.
Good
back,
choice.
The Italians.
Do you know where they're from?
Get some
in
good
Italy?
food. The northern.
North? Okay.
Yeah.
I know my ancestors are from Genoa.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm so bad about this. Like, that's why I should probably go back and figure it out because I don't know anything. I want to know more. I think it'd be interesting. All right. So we're talking about journeys. Obviously, we talked about the Christian journey on our last episode and how we got to where we are in Christianity, how that all began. But today I want to talk about the journey in terms of finding faith and how that journey looks. So when you think about why people find faith, how they do it, and maybe what draws people to the idea of faith, what kind of comes to mind?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I think that, we were just talking about this with Brian. Not sure if that episode's aired yet.
No, that's a special surprise episode that's coming, but we did have we have a sneak peek, so don't worry.
Perfect. Well,
Pastor Brian coming soon.
We kind of talked about how people have always wanted transcendence. I think humans have always looked up at the sky and been like, what is going on here? I'm a very small piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
What is out there? And we start asking those questions. You ask the bigger questions of why am I here? Who put me here? And so I think searching for meaning is one thing that attracts a lot of people to the Christian faith.
Yeah.
I also think community, that's what attracted me to the Christian faith, is having a loving, nurturing, caring community that acts different from the communities that you see in the world and maybe acts the way that you would hope that life looked like.
Yeah.
So I think community, transcendence, finding meaning.
Yeah.
I also think at some points, we come to the end of ourselves and we hit rock bottom. We're like, I just don't know where to go from here. I think that the gospel is very powerful in all of those moments, right?
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you said community because I think for me, that's definitely what has always drawn me into finding places to worship, to finding people of faith. I move a lot. Like when I was in broadcasting, I mean, my goodness, I lived in 7 different states over the course of 5 or 6 years. And the one thing that I could always count on whenever I would move is finding a church and knowing that if I went there, I would be able to find young people. I would be able to find people of similar beliefs and just find some type of a network, right, to feel supported by. And so I think if nothing else, it's a great starting point for anybody that's just in a place of transition to know that no matter where you are, you're going to be able to find a church. And that's super comforting. So for me, that's not necessarily what brought me to faith, but I know that that's a big part of continuing my faith is always seeking out community.
One of the biggest reasons that people leave the church is actually because they move and they try to get plugged in, and then it just doesn't stick. And they're like, well, this isn't part of my life anymore, you know?
Right.
That's why having like a church that's so community focused is so important.
Yeah. So for you as a pastor, obviously, especially having worked in connections for a long time, you're meeting people at that threshold. What are some of the reasons or, main conversations of, people expressing, how they found us or why, they sought out coming to church, why they sought out a faith? Yeah.
A big reason is people are brought here by their friends and family.
That's great.
Like some people really are like brought by their loved ones who want them to experience the Christian journey,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they want it and sometimes they don't, and receive an unexpected, like really beautiful surprise of like, oh, this is what I really
That's awesome.
Really need. I think the vast majority of people are looking for community. People are looking for connection. People are looking for belonging. Most people, when, they come to our church, are like, I really want to make some friends. I really want to connect with people. And then there are a ton of moments where people just have like a lot of big questions in life, Like we do Alpha, and that's just a really good space for people to ask all of their questions.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we hear are, some people are Christians, were Christians a long time ago,
right,
and are not anymore. And they're like, I have a lot of issues with the church. Why does this happen? Or they're asking questions about what makes Christianity different than any other religion, It's a lot of different things. Yeah.
And they should watch this podcast because we talk about that.
Yeah,
too.
we do. I was going to say, I think I'm repeating this.
We're killing it.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about your faith journey because I find it interesting because you took it, not just to a place of personal faith, but you made it your career, right? Which is a very amazing commitment. So I want to know first just about your faith journey, kind of how did you come to faith? And then we'll talk about how you became Pastor Dom.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, a little like tidbit about like faith journey, testimony. Some people call it testimony.
Yes.
Here's something that like bugs me about when people share testimonies. One is like, if your life wasn't super horrible, it's like less valuable. Like that's kind of like the mentality around testimony sometimes.
I relate it to when you're trying to write a really meaningful college a college essay for an application, and they're like, tell us something that was like crazy about your life or change your life. You're like, I'm just pretty boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really want to go to school
and
here.
Some people think that their story is less valuable
but it's not.
Like, it's not.
Just because you didn't. Anyways.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And then the second is, I think sometimes people make their testimony or their faith journey like, here is the one point from my faith journey, and it's like, that's not how life works. Like you don't. It all isn't all directed into one answer.
And not like every person's is going to come to this booming voice from the skies opening, and that's okay.
Yeah. So what I usually say when I share this is, your faith journey is important because it involves your story and how Jesus was involved.
Yeah.
And whatever happened in that story doesn't make it any more valuable or less valuable.
Yeah.
It is infinitely valuable because it's yours and because Jesus is involved.
I love that.
Yeah. So with that said, I was not raised in a Christian home. You know, we were like Catholic, nominally Catholic, which really just means like I'm super Italian, right?
Yes, we've done that one. Yes, I love it.
But we never really went to church a ton. And I didn't have the most positive relationship with religion. I viewed it as a set of rules.
Yeah.
But middle and high school, survival of the fittest. And when you're not like the most fit kid, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a lot of friends. And I didn't feel a sense of belonging at home. So I felt like there was like nowhere that I like fit, right?
Right.
And so the one friend that I did have invited me to his youth group. And he was like, do you want to come to this? There's pizza and video games. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'll do that. Like where is it? I don't know, but I'll go. Yeah. But like I experienced a group of people who were happy just because I walked in the door. And everywhere else in the world, you have to be smart, you have to be cool, you have to be funny, you have to be successful, you know. You like earn your belonging. And so experiencing a place where it's like, oh, I am welcome here simply because I walked in the door.
Yeah.
That was so remarkably different. And I was like, what these people have, like I want.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like continuing to go and hearing my youth pastor talk about how, Christianity is a relationship with Jesus, not a set of rules. And I think there's a lot of nuance there, but that was like
basic.
just
at the base level.
a huge shift for me.
Yeah.
That God loved me just as I was and wanted a relationship with me. And like, I wanted that. It drastically changed my life. You know, I was kind of like a punk. I, put others down because I felt put down. And when Jesus got a hold of my life, I didn't want to do that anymore. I just wanted to give people that sense of welcome that I had. So yeah, I would say that's me. What about you? I would love to hear.
That's amazing.
Your
Thank you
thoughts.
for sharing that.
Anytime.
That was really good. I would say mine was very different in the sense that I was always driven by athletics.
Okay.
And so I am incredibly competitive. And so I found a sense of belonging through sports, a sense of identity through sports. I was always involved in some team. And that didn't always mean that it was easy. I had to transfer high schools. I struggled from a friendship standpoint because, again, I was not interested in the things that made you cool at that time.
Yeah.
But being in sports at least helped, right? You had that basic level group. I would say that for me, my journey really evolved when being in sports and being at the top of my game, or ultimately at the top of my career as I continued as a broadcaster, when I didn't have that is when I started to realize, who am I without being on a team? Who am I without being a captain? Who am I without being a reporter in the NHL and covering hockey? Like, all of those things are just my job. Being an athlete was a job. Being a reporter was a job. And
But it's
so,
like, who am I really?
yes. And I started to realize that like my entire identity centered only around that. And it started to feel really overwhelming and very lonely. And when you don't have confidence in those things, then you have confidence in nothing. And I'm a confident person, but I was losing it when I lost that identity. And it led me to kind of have that moment of like self-reflection of like, what am I doing? And so that's when I really leaned into God and figuring out what was our relationship, what was my purpose for him, not my purpose for a career, and just kind of separating that and figuring out ultimately that there's so much more to being alive than just whatever you were doing on a work day, right? I would introduce myself to people about my job. First thing out of my mouth would be what I was doing for a career. And now I'm who I am. I'm Katie, and I can introduce myself knowing that I have a relationship with Jesus, and that is actually the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so that was really what drove me. And it required me really losing a lot of those things to have to do that work, right? And in ways that I wasn't at times ready to lose them, but they were taken from me. And in some ways, I feel like ultimately that was God forcing me to meet him and to think more about who I was in that way, and what my relationship with him was like, and how that mattered more than who I was on
That is
TV.
really powerful. Yeah.
So,
and now you kill it as Katie the person,
And now
and as Katie
the online host and podcast.
Online host and podcast. Yeah. Creative
Amazing.
storyteller.
Yes. That was great. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm glad we got to share that. Hopefully everyone that's watching, feels like, wherever you are in your life, that you have a good story to tell, because like you said, Dom, the most important thing about
Every
a
story has
testimony
value.
is that Jesus is a part of it. All right. So let's talk about, on the topic of careers, even though I just said how important it is not to focus on just that, you became a pastor.
I did.
So how'd that happen?
Well, it's kind of funny. And I want to hear how Katie became the online storyteller.
Yes.
Anyway, I like very much idolized my youth pastor.
Yeah.
And originally I wanted to be a teacher, and I was like, my youth pastor is just like a teacher, but about Jesus, and he just gets to have fun. Like, he comes to youth group, he has fun, he plays games, he goes on these fun retreats.
I love that.
I was telling that to another group of like ministers, and they were like, there's a spreadsheet in there somewhere that he doesn't know about. And I was right. There are spreadsheets still. But no, I was like, I started to think about if that's what I wanted to do. And I was praying about it. I'm not like a huge God told me kind of person.
Yes. Okay.
But I felt this this sense that this is what I had to do in order to be fulfilled. And I don't think everyone has that. I don't think you're more or less valuable if you don't, but that's just what I experienced. I was like, I can't really picture myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I decided like, okay, thinking about going into ministry. And then there was this big conference, and at it, they like, it's such a youth group thing, but they're like, at the end, they say, stand up if you chose to follow Jesus at this conference. And people stand up and everyone claps.
Yeah.
And then they say, stand up if you decide to go into ministry, and they stand up and everyone claps. And then the person said, would you stay standing if that was the last applause that you got? And everyone was like, oh, wow.
Wow.
And it's kind of this idea that it's a thankless job. And I want to say,
Yeah.
people are very thankful of pastors.
Yes.
People are so appreciative.
Yes.
And
But that's interesting.
But it was kind of a cool experience of like, will you still do this if it's not all fun and games, if it's not just like having fun, playing video games and having pizza with people you love.
Yeah. And it's not for like the glory of
for
like
yourself.
any type of attention either, right?
And that was kind of like I wonder if this is still something that I want to do. And I prayed about it and continued to want to do it. So went to seminary and met, some of my closest friends, met my wife, and I have loved it. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool.
What about you? How did Katie become the online host / creative storyteller?
Well,
Is that your job description? I'm sorry.
I know. People have reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna make you like a business card. Like, what should we call you? Or like, what should we put on the website?" It's changed. It's evolved. But that's kind of the best part about this job is that I get to wear all these different hats and be useful everywhere. But yes, when I applied for the job, it was a a digital storyteller, I believe, and content creator, something along those lines. So for me, I knew that I wanted to keep using the skills that I have. I wouldn't be fulfilled if I just took like a 9 to 5 and was doing something completely different. Like, there's a level of vanity in it because like I really do like being on camera, and you have to have a little bit of, the confidence to enjoy that. I like being seen, but I wanted to do it in a way that was more meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And that was where I was wrestling with what job exists that I can still feel like I'm using the gifts and talents that God gave me, recognizing that, he made me good at this for a reason. What is that reason? I'm still figuring it out, to be completely honest. It's not perfect, but when I saw this job, it checked so many boxes of being meaningful, making a difference, but still fulfilling who I am and knowing that I'm going to use these skills in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's certainly how I pitched myself, but it's always changing. But that was something that just really drew it to me was that, and I prayed a lot about it. I was reading a book called like Your Purpose is Calling, which I really enjoy. I'll share that with you guys sometimes. But, and when I interviewed, and it was one of those things where I was just like, God, if this is right for me, just make it too good to deny it. And it became that. And it just became something that I knew I had to try and I had to do. But it's a very unique path. Yeah. And I know I think the biggest challenge when taking it was explaining to like friends and family who only knew me as Hockey Katie.
They're like, what are you
doing? You're working. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But you're still on camera, so that's great. You're doing it. And now all the things that I post on my Instagram that was hockey related are now church related, and they still like and share. Perfect. So when we first started posting things, there was like the Katie bump, we called it, where all of my people from sports world were liking all of our Grace Chapel content. We're like, are we really doing a good job, or is this just all of my followers from my other life?
It's both. It's good.
It's good. We'll take the love any way we can get it. I love that. All right. Well, let's wrap up this conversation. There's so many good things to talk about. What was maybe a moment on your faith journey? And everybody has these. Maybe it was while you were deciding to be a pastor or as you were going through seminary, but was there ever like a challenge in that journey? Was there ever a moment you questioned,
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I said this once a bit ago, but like, I feel like I will always be kind of like a doubtful, skeptical person. Like, since I wasn't like super religious growing up, it's still bizarre to me that like I would be considered religious, which is like really bizarre because I'm a pastor. And I know how silly that sounds. But yeah, I mean, like, I think when life gets hard, it causes us to question things. Of
course.
And I had a moment in college where I really like lost my faith. A lot of people who've went through that talk about this trapdoor feeling where it literally feels like a trapdoor is pulled out from under you.
Yeah.
And I was at this concert and I remember like looking around, everyone was having so much fun. And I like looked up into the sky. Calling back to people look up at the stars. And what would usually give me comfort, the sense that like God is big and wonderful. I had this thought where I realized I will never know with 100% certainty that God exists. And that was kind of the trapdoor moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I don't believe this anymore. This is bizarre.
Yeah. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. And so I need to have the good ending because I went to church the next day and my pastor was preaching a message and he talked about like essentially the same exact thing. Like he had a moment where he questioned everything, lost his faith, and how God like essentially moved in his life to bring him to a deeper place. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm going through.
And you needed to hear that exact moment.
And so like my faith looked so different afterwards, but the fact that God was there, God was with me, even in the uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like a place where God has been really consistent in my life. That like even in the uncertainty, even when there are no answers to a lot of our questions, like He is there and He's with us. What about you?
Amen. That's good. I would say my questions came more in the form of challenges, and it was sort of, I think I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it was an opportunity to either lean into it further and to embrace that God was putting me through these struggles and challenging my entire identity to its core because He wanted to draw me closer. Or it could have just sent me into a spiral where I say, why are all these bad things happening?
Yeah.
And I go the completely opposite direction. And in this case, I did lean into it. But it's just kind of a good moment to realize that so many people don't lean into it and to understand that He's going to keep trying. And sometimes the way He tries to bring you into it might not be the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
And for me, certainly having my whole, kind of career feel like it was falling apart in a way, leading me to something greater. If you don't appreciate that God is in it, then you may not get out of it what you need. And I think that's huge.
I think that like on top of that, I think that the wrestling is the point. Like there's this story in the Bible of Jacob, and he's like at a crossroads in his life. And it's described as like this man, this like angel of the Lord or something, it starts like wrestling with him, and like they wrestle all night.
Yeah.
And Jacob said like kind of gets this guy in a grapple and it's like, I will not let you go until you bless me. And that whole time it was God. And it's like, what does this story mean? And for me, I think that the wrestling, the struggling and the growing, but like not having all the answers, wrestling with these questions of like coming to these crossroads. Like I think the wrestling is the point. And those are the moments where we meet God, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. No, and it's like the seasons even in between where you feel like nothing is happening. Something's happening. Yeah. And I went through, that was my kind of struggle in between where I was and where I am now, was the time of the wandering and wondering. And that's again where you can make a choice to feel like it doesn't feel like He's here, so He must not be, or He is, and I just have to stick with it and keep trusting. And that can be the hardest part when nothing feels like it's happening. Almost like sometimes when you're struggling, at least something's going on.
Yeah.
It's like when there's absolutely nothing happening and you're just like floating.
What am I doing? Yeah.
Yes. And that's
a good point.
That part is sometimes the scariest, but this was great.
Yeah.
Today we definitely went a little bit less
got real,
nerdy and got real. This is my favorite episode for sure that we've done, and we will continue to tell great stories,
go.
and we'll have guests join us and share more about their lives and their faith. But Dom, that does it for What's Your Faith Journey. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, we will be back with more on the Christian journey in our next episode.